Remember how he was wisecracking last night? I said last night, just as we were walking Cherry and Marcia over to Two Bits. We were Two Bit and Marcia Two Bits. Last night we were laying in the lot looking up at the stars and dreaming. Stop it, Johnny said, grabbing between his clenched teeth. Shut up about last night. I killed a kid last night. He could have been over 17 or 18, and I killed him. How'd you like to live with that? He was crying. I held him like Soda held him the day we found him in a lot, lying in a lot. I didn't mean to, he finally blurted out, but they were drowning you, and I was so scared. He was quiet for a minute. There was sure a lot of blood in people. He got up suddenly and began pacing back and forth, slapping his pockets. What are you going to do? I was crying by then. It was getting dark and it was cold and lonesome. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back, but the tears came anyway. This is my fault, Johnny said in a miserable voice. He had stopped crying when I started. For bringing a little 13-year-old kid along. You ought to go home. You can't get into any trouble. You didn't kill him. No, I screamed at him. I'm 14 and I've been 14 for a month and I'm as much in it as you are. I'll stop crying in a minute and I can't help it. He slumped down beside me. I didn't mean it like that, Pony boy. Don't cry, Pony. We'll be okay. Don't cry. I leaned against him and bawled until we went to sleep. I woke up late that night. Johnny was resting against the wall, and I was asleep on his shoulder. Johnny, I yawned. You awake? I was warm and sleepy. Yeah, he said quietly. We ain't gonna cry no more, are we? Nope. We're all cried out now, getting used to the idea. We're gonna be okay. That's what I thought, I said drowsily. Then, for the first time since Daly and I had sat down behind those girls at the nightly double, I relaxed. We could take whatever was coming now. The next 4 or 5 days were the longest days I've ever spent in my life. We killed time by reading Gone with the Wind and playing poker. Sure, Johnny sure did like that book, although he didn't know anything about the Civil War and less about plantations, and I had to explain a lot of it to him. It amazed me how Johnny could get more meaning out of some of the stuff there than I could. I was supposed to be the deep one. Johnny had failed a year in school and never made good grades. He couldn't grasp anything that was shoved at him too fast. And I guess his teachers just thought he was playing dumb, but he wasn't. He was just a little slow to get things, and he liked to explore things once he did get them. He was especially stuck on the Southern gentlemen, impressed with their manners and charm. I bet they were cool old guys. And he said, his eyes glowing after I had read the part about them riding into the shore of death because they were gallant. Remind me of Daly. Daly, I said, startled. Shoot, he ain't got no more manners than I do. And I'm sure you saw how he treated those girls the other night. Soda's got more of them Southern boys. Yeah, in the manners bit, but in the charm too, I guess, Johnny said slowly. But one night I saw Daly getting picked on by the fuzz. He kept real cool and calm the whole time. They was getting him for breaking out windows of school building, and it was Two Bit who did that, and Daly knew it. But they took, but he just took the sentence without batting an eye and even denying it. That's gallant. That was the first time I realized the extent of Johnny's hero worship for Daly Winston. Of all of us, Daly was the one I liked the least. He didn't have Soda's understanding or dash, or Two Bit's humor, or even Derry's Superman qualities, but he realized that these three appealed to me because those were like heroes in novels I read. Daly was real. I liked my books and clouds and sunsets. Daly was so real he scared me. Johnny and I never went to the front of the church. You could see the front from the road, and sometimes farm kids rode their horses by on the way to the store. So we stayed in the very back, usually sitting the steps and looking across the valley. We could see for miles. See the ribbon of highway and small dots were the houses and cars. You couldn't watch the sunset since the back faced the east, but I loved the look of the colors of the fields and the soft shadow shadings of the horizon. One morning I woke up earlier than usual. Johnny and I slept huddled together for warmth. Daly had been right when he said it would get cold where we were going. Being careful not to wake Johnny up, I went to sit on the steps and smoke a cigarette. The dawn was coming. All the lower valley was covered in mist, and sometimes little pieces of it broke off and floated away in small clouds. The sky was lighter in the east, and the horizon was a thin gold line. The clouds changed from gray to pink. In the midst of was touched with gold. There were silent moments when everything held its breath. Then the sun rose. It was beautiful. Golly, Johnny's voice beside me made me jump. That sure was pretty. Yeah, I sighed, wishing I had some paint to do a picture with while the sight was still fresh in my mind. The mist is what was pretty, Johnny said, all gold and silver. I said, trying to blow a smoke ring. Too bad it couldn't stay like that for all the time. Nothing gold can stay, I remembered a poem I read once. What? Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. When leaf subsided to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. Johnny was staring at me. Where'd you learn that? That was what I meant. Robert Frost wrote it. He meant more to it than I'm getting, though. I was trying to find the meaning of the poet had in mind, but it eluded me. I always remembered it because I never quite got what it meant. You know, Johnny said slowly, I never noticed colors of the clouds and stuff until you kept reminding me about them. It seems like they were never there before. He thought for a moment. Your family sure is funny. And it happens to be funny about what happens to be funny about it? I asked stiffly. Johnny looked up quickly. I didn't mean nothing. I meant, well, Soda kind of looks like your mother did, but he acts exactly like your father. And Darius is spit an image of your father, and he ain't wild and laughing all the time like he did. He acts like your mother, and you don't act like either one. I know, I said. Well, I said, thinking this over, you ain't act like any of the gang. I mean, I couldn't tell Two Bit or Steve or Derry any about sunrise or clouds and stuff. I couldn't even remember that poem around them. I mean, they just don't dig. Just you and Soda Pop and maybe Cherry Valance. Johnny shrugged. Yeah, he said with a sigh. I guess we're different. Shoot, I said, blowing a perfect smoke ring. Maybe they are. By the fifth day, I was so tired of bologna I nearly got sick every time I looked at it. We had eaten all the candy bars in the first 2 days. I was dying for a Pepsi, and I'm what you might call a Pepsi addict. I drink them like a fiend, and going on 5 days without one was about to kill me. Johnny promised to get some if we ran out of supplies and had to get more, but that didn't help me right then. I was smoking a lot more and than I usually did. I guess that's because it's something to do. Although Johnny warned me that I would get sick smoking so much. We carefully we were careful with our cigarettes. If that old church ever caught fire, there'd be no stopping it. On the fifth day, I had read up on Sherman's siege of the Atlanta in Gone with the Wind, owned owed Johnny $150 from poker games, smoked 2 packs of Camels, and as Johnny had predicted, got sick. I hadn't eaten anything all day and smoked on an empty stomach. That doesn't make you feel real great. I curled up in the corner and slept off the smoke. I was just about asleep when I heard, as if from a great distance, a long, low whistle went off, and suddenly, high and a sudden high note. I was too sleepy to pay attention, although Johnny didn't have any reason to whistle like that. He was sitting on the back steps trying to read Gone with the Wind. I'd almost decided that I had dreamed the outside world and there was nothing real but bologna sandwiches and the Civil War and old church and in the midst of the valley. It seemed to me they always lived in a church and maybe lived during the Civil War and had somehow gotten transplanted. That shows you what a wild imagination I have. The tug a toe nagged me in the ribs. Glory, he said in a rough but familiar voice. He looks different with his hair like that. I rolled over and sat up, rubbed the sleep out of my eyes, and started yawning. Suddenly, I blinked. Hey, Daly. Hey, pony boy. He grinned down at me. Or should I say, Sleeping Beauty? I never thought I'd live to say a day where I'd be glad to see Daly Winston. But right then, he meant one thing contact with the outside world. And it suddenly became real and vital. How's Soda Pop? Are the fuzz after us? Is Derry all right? Do the boys know where we are? What? Hold on, kid. Daly broke in. I can't answer everything at once. You two want to get something to eat first? I skipped breakfast and I'm about starved. You're starved, Johnny said so indignantly that he nearly squeaked. I remember the bologna. Is it safe to go out? I asked eagerly. Yup, Daly said, searched his shirt pocket for a cigarette and finding none. He said, got a cancer stick, Johnny Cake? Johnny tossed him a whole package. The fuzz won't be looking for you around here, Daly said, lighting up. They think you've lit out for Texas. I've got Buck's T-Bird parked down the road a little way. Gosh almighty, boys, ain't you been eating anything? Johnny looked startled. Yeah, whatever gave you that idea, we ain't. Daly shook his head. You're both pale and you've lost weight. After this, get out in the sun more, and you'll look like you've been through the mill. I started to say, look who's talking, but decided it would be safer not to. Daly needed to shave. A stubble, colorless beard covered his jaw and looked like he was the one who'd been sleeping in his clothes for a week instead of us. I knew he hadn't seen a barber in months, but it was safer not to get mouthy with Daly Winston. Hey, pony boy. He fumbled with a piece of paper in his back pocket. I got a letter from you. A letter from who? The president, of course. Stupid. It's from Soda. Soda Pop, I said, bewildered. But how'd he know? He came over to Buck's a couple days ago, asked something. He found that sweatshirt. I told him I didn't know where it was, but he didn't believe me. He gave me a letter and half of his paycheck to give you. Kid, you ought to see Derry. He's talking this mighty hard. I wasn't listening. I leaned back against the side of the church and read, Pony Boy. Well, I guess you got into some trouble, huh? Derry and me nearly went nuts and ran out like that. Derry is awful sorry he hit you. He know he didn't mean it. And when you and Johnny turned up missing on that dead kid in the park and Daly getting hauled into the station, well, it scared us something awful. Police came by to question us and we told them as much as we could. Can't believe little old Johnny could kill somebody. I know Daly knows where you are, but you know him. He keeps his trap shut and won't tell me nothing. Derry hasn't gotten the slightest notion of where you are at, and it's nearly killing him. I wish you'd come back and turn yourselves in, but I guess you can't since Johnny might get hurt. You sure are famous. You got a paragraph in the newspaper even. Take care and say hi to Johnny for us. Soda Pop Curtis.